Good afternoon, Fiona.
Your idea of giving bakers, jewellers and florists the right to refuse to provide services for same-sex weddings, isn't that discrimination?
Well, what we're trying to do is balance the rights of people to have the freedom to marry, which I strongly want for same-sex couples and have argued for many years, and the right of people to uphold their religious freedom, their freedom of conscience and their freedom of speech. It's a difficult thing to balance, but I think we have to find a way to do it. What my bill includes is a limited right of conscientious objection. That means that you can decline to provide services to a same-sex wedding if that wedding is against your values, so that no one could be coerced or forced to provide services inconsistent with their values.
Isn't that discrimination towards the same-sex couple?
Well, it's discrimination, I guess, in the sense of their wedding ceremony, but their wedding ceremony only. So to take your example of a baker, it would not be lawful for a baker to refuse to bake a birthday cake for a gay person, but it would be lawful for them to decline to provide services to a wedding. And that's because religious freedom and freedom of conscience are human rights. And if we don't provide them a right to conscientiously object, we are depriving them of their human rights.
But then you're depriving that same-sex couple of the right to marry without discrimination.
Well, they would be gaining the right to marry, which I think is a really important part of the bill and something that I strongly believe in. They would be able to marry, but they would only be able to have the services of people at their wedding who are willing to provide it. They would not be able to force anyone to provide services at their wedding, and I think that's a reasonable thing.
But this goes to hotel operators as well, transport providers, photographers, as I understand it. Is that right?
It goes only to services that are directly relevant to the ceremony and reception. So it would not include, for example, a taxi driver taking someone to a gay wedding. They would not be able to refuse to take them.
But yes, a hotel could refuse to host it, a transport provider for the actual couple towards their wedding?
Yes, like a wedding car operator, for example, could decline to provide their services to a gay wedding. And yes, a hotel could decline to host a gay wedding ceremony or reception.
This is discrimination according to the laws of the states. You're wanting to override state and territory anti-discrimination laws here.
Well, if that's discrimination, then it was discrimination during the campaign for the Coalition for Marriage, the No case, to be refused venues that they sought to hire. I defended the right of venues to refuse to hire out to the Coalition for Marriage because I believe they should not be compelled to host an event that goes against their values, and I defend that right consistently also for people who have a different view on marriage.
You're bringing safe schools into this too, saying that parents who want to remove their children from classes if they believe the values being taught don't accord with a traditional view of marriage should be able to do that. How is what's taught in schools and the definition of marriage the same thing?
Well, the United Nations Rights of the Child stipulates that parents have a right to choose the moral and religious education of their children. And that includes making sure that the teaching of their children is consistent with their values. We do have in Victoria the Safe Schools program, which I think very much clashes with the values of many parents. And what we're just making clear is that a parent or a student would have a right to opt out of a class that they felt was inconsistent with their values.
Why does that need to be in this bill, though?
Well, I think it's a good opportunity to address this issue because it's been the subject of a lot of community concern and it's been a big topic in this debate during the marriage survey.
But why does it need to be in this bill?
Well,
this particular bill?
Well, because I think now is a good opportunity to do that. We are going to be considering very closely related
Aren't you murkying
issues.
the waters between what's in the education curriculum and what's happening between two people who love each other to get married? Aren't you just murkying the waters again as the Conservatives have been trying to tie this in for the whole campaign?
I don't think so because I've always believed that same-sex couples should have the right to marry, but I've never believed that that should come at the expense of anyone else. And there are, I suspect, we'll find out on Wednesday exactly how many, but I suspect 30 to 40% of Australians will vote no. And I don't want them to feel that their religious freedom or their freedom of conscience or their freedom of speech or their parental rights are going to suffer at all as a result of the change in the law. And this is one way of reassuring them that they have nothing to lose from this change in the law.
As you say, the ABS survey results will be announced on Wednesday. Given there's bickering about any potential bill within the Liberal Party now, in that Dean Smith has his bill, you now have your potential bill that might delay any vote in Parliament on same-sex marriage until next year maybe, and this whole issue will still be a headache for Malcolm Turnbull. Does that bother you?
I'm not sure why you'd categorise it as bickering. I have a lot of respect for Dean Smith. He's a very valued colleague, and I think there are a lot of good features in his bill. But from my point of view, it doesn't go sufficiently far in reassuring people about their religious liberty, freedom of speech and freedom of conscience. So I've proposed my own private member's bill. This is a private member's bill process, and it is the right of any member or senator to put their own bill forward and seek the support of their colleagues. And I don't think it's bickering to have a important public policy debate like that.
But many in the Liberal Party have said that Dean Smith's bill is a good starting point for debate. Why can't you just pick up and run with that and make it less of a headache for your leader and your party?
Well, I think it's wrong to categorise a principled policy debate as being a headache for anyone. This is how the parliaments deal with issues, particularly when they are private members' bills. There's not a government position on this bill, so anyone's entitled to put forward a bill that they think best reflects their values. I'm looking forward. I've had a brief chat to Dean. I'm looking forward to sitting down with him at greater length to talk about maybe a shared path forward, and I hope there are some aspects of my bill that he may support, although I accept that there'll certainly be other aspects that he wouldn't, and I hope we can come to some kind of agreement about the process forward.
Four Corners tonight focuses on the fight for control within the Liberal Party, many suggesting Malcolm Turnbull's been unable to stamp his authority on the government due to Conservative forces agitating from the backbench. You're a Conservative MP. Does it bother you that you're being blamed for what looks like it might be the downfall of a coalition government?
I think it would be fairly extraordinary for any government to fall down over a genuine policy disagreement. That's a healthy thing that occurs in political parties.
I'm talking about the fight for control within the Liberal Party, though, between the Conservatives and the moderates. Yeah,
I think that definitely gets overstated in the media. I obviously can't judge the Four Corners episode until I've seen it, so I don't know what their take is. But I think often that is over-egged in the media. I actually don't describe myself as a Conservative. Other people sometimes describe me as that, and I don't mind that. But I'm also described by others as a Libertarian. I personally describe myself as a classical Liberal. I think that I uphold Liberal values. That's what I'm here to do.
Liberal Senator James Paterson is with us this afternoon. Just before you go, are you happy with the deal struck for MPs to declare their citizenship status?
I have to confess I haven't paid a lot of attention to that because I've been focused on this today, but from the little bit that I understand, it sounds like it's good progress.
Good progress in what way?
Well, it's a step towards resolving this issue because the Australian people, from the feedback they give me, is they're very frustrated that this continues to drag on and they want a resolution, and I think they deserve a resolution.
So you're happy to declare any family heritage on your own part by December the 1st? Do you think this will be the end of it then?
Yes, I'll have to go chase up some family birth certificates in order to do that. But yes, I'm confident about my citizenship and I'm happy to participate in whatever process the Parliament dictates.
And what did you make of the news poll this morning showing that the Prime Minister, in terms of the preferred Prime Minister stakes, has dropped to 36 points against Bill Shorten's 34, which is Bill Shorten's highest rating as preferred Prime Minister since Tony Abbott was Prime Minister? What did you make of that? Let's talk about that one first.
Sure. Well, all Liberals would have preferred a better result in this news poll, as we hope for a better result in every poll we see. But I have to say, I'm surprised that the poll wasn't worse than it was, given the last 2 weeks of events, which have been dominated by Citizenship. They're events that the Prime Minister does not control, but he is responding to, and I think he's responding to very well. One thing which I think is really telling is that despite all of that, despite all the messiness and the commentary in the media, Australians still prefer Malcolm Turnbull to be Prime Minister over Bill Shorten. That doesn't reflect very well on Bill Shorten at all.
Only just.
Well, I remember, Fiona, when Kevin Rudd was opposition leader and John Howard was Prime Minister, and Kevin Rudd was ahead at times 60 to 40 in news poll. Bill Shorten hasn't reached anywhere near that, and of course John Howard brought that back to be much closer. So I'm very confident that with the time we've got until the next election, we'll have the opportunity to bring those poll numbers in much closer to competitive, and we'll be in a very strong position to seek re-election.
You really believe that? At the moment it's two-party preferred, the Coalition 45, Labor 55.
As I said, there have been times in history where it's been much further apart than that and been pulled back. So I'm very confident we can do it.
Thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Great to be with you, Fiona. Thank you for having me.